minutes this morning regarding our 2020-21 budget. As we all understand, we're in a period of uncertainty as it relates to not only football but the rest of our sports as well. That being said, I'll go through a budget as we have prepared, and please note that we will be well prepared to pivot at a time that we need to going forward in the next couple of months or weeks to come. That being said, if you'll join me, we'll go to the first slide after the cover sheet that reads Executive Summary, Fiscal Year 2020-21. You see that our proposed revenues would be slightly more than $127 million, with our expenses a tad more than $114 million. That would result in transfers back to the university at $11,473,700. That would give us an opportunity to put $1.4 million back into our reserves in the athletic department. The next slide, the Executive Summary 2021 revenues. We are budgeting a decrease in ticket sales, mainly because we're a little bit conservative and our home schedule is not quite as attractive as it was a year ago. The second category of guarantees, we do not have a neutral site game that we've had periodically that brings us about $2 million a year, so that doesn't exist for this fall. Premium seating, we anticipate an increase of about $1.5 million with our new additions to Williams-Brice that is going very, very well. The west side is sold out, the amenities. The east side is nearly sold out, and we're moving toward the south end that has gone very well. The load seating is about 50% sold out. That we've been hampered by the opportunity to go out and visit with some of our constituents because of the pandemic. The SEC conference distribution we expect to be up next year. The SEC network continues to do very, very well. And if you remember, we didn't get the NCAA basketball distribution this year because of the pandemic that we will anticipate getting next year. From the expense part, salaries with our football staff mainly was increased. We had some contracts that we had to honor that are shortly coming off the books. That being said, as you know, the three highest paid coaches and I have taken a 10% reduction. That $1.9 million deficit I would expect to disappear and turn into a positive as we go forward. The grants and aid category is going to decrease just because of an accounting change. We'll move that to general services. Equipment and supplies will also decrease. If you might remember hearing last year, we had to buy a switcher at $1.1 million to continue to produce to the SEC network that will come out this year. So that's we had to have the switcher to continue operation, but that now is a decrease. General services, basically accounting classification allocation change, where we're putting some stuff into general services from the DOTI and our medical services as well. I will go to the next slide and show you the transfers back from athletics to the university that has been very consistent and long-standing. The first $2 million that you see was the original ESPN contract that goes back to the university for scholarship use. You can see the other breakdowns as well. The last category is broken up a little bit in university support for the band away games for tickets, and some to the student government. That total is $4.967,500,000. I'll go to the next slide. You'll see the revenues broken down. The first column, I'll point out where we have 19.5 that we are projecting for ticket sales. That's across all of our sports. As we know, football is a big portion of that. And you see, as I mentioned, nothing in guarantees, and you can see the breakdowns of the other categories as well. I'll note down in ancillary sales that we anticipate that we would do very well with beer sales as we move forward, and then other revenue. The Colonial Life Arena has done extremely well, and we continue to anticipate a robust year despite having to cancel a lot of things. We hope that we do get back to normal and can entertain those. That shows the revenues, again, the total of $127 million. The next slide is a pie chart that breaks down each category, as I just shared with you, and where each of them come from to account for the $127 million. The projected ticket sales is also broken out. You can see each sport and what we bring in an annual year to account for the $19.5 million. Note football, again, is a large portion of that at $16.250. The next slide, I'll show you the home football revenue, if you will. You see each game broken out and the different ticket prices. Please note the second column, the bond fee, we take out $15 each ticket to go through our debt service. And also in the fourth column, we take out the admission tax that goes back to the South Carolina Department of Revenue.
Coach Tanner.
You can see the net ticket. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Coach Tanner. Would you all please mute your phones while listening? Thank you.
Thank you. And then in the next to the last column, you get back down to the very bottom, $16,250,000 in football net ticket sales. Note the Georgia game we do. That was mentioned earlier in one of the slides. I went pretty fast. That $10 comes off of the Georgia ticket in the year that we don't play Clemson. It's Clemson one year, Georgia the next year, that goes back toward scholarships. The next slide, you will see the expenses broken out that gets to a tad over $114 million. I will note that the first number you see in personnel, over $54 million. Again, that number does not include the 10% that the three highest paid coaches have voluntarily taken, and I'm anticipating that number could be even lower once you take out the 10% as we go forward. The grants and aids you see to be a little bit less. We're certainly not reducing our grants and aids or our commitment to our student athletes, but it's a little bit less maybe because of some summer school that is not going to happen in our current situation that we're in for the rest of the summer, and maybe reduce next fall. And you see the other categories and the numbers that we share, that we have tried to make sure that we have made it as lean as possible going forward, and that gets us to $114,196,000. The next slide is again a pie chart that shows you where our expenses are. Obviously, personnel is a big part of the expenses that it takes to run the athletics department. The next slide is a summary sheet with revenues and expenses to capture the 127 in revenues, the 114 in expenses. That gives us that bottom number in the first column of almost $13 million that result in transfers. And if we'll go to the next sheet, we'll start to talk about the transfer summary. You'll see in the first column that it gets down different things broken out that gets to $11,473,700. That leaves us the $1,466,000 that we talked to on slide 1 and going back to our reserve category. More transfer detail on the next slide. That's broken out for you pretty well with university services that we pay with the athletic support back to the university at 4.9, debt service 4.6, and then going to the total transfers of 11.4. Note that debt service of 4.6 comes out of our operating budget in-house athletic department. The next slide is a capsule of where we are right now with our debt just shy of $169 million, with the debt service being at 12.5. You can see where that money comes from, with the 4.6. I just mentioned to you as the operating budget, with those other categories, with the bond fee that I mentioned, and some basketball bond fee money from men and women, and the other two categories that get us to our debt service of 12.5. So we estimate that in 11 days that we'll be servicing a 163.9 note. Williams-Brice is not on this sheet at this point, but we'll be going forward when we're able to go out and get the financing for that. The debt service, again, is 12.5. I went through that extremely fast, and again, I'll share with you that Jeff Talent and his staff, Steve Eigenbrot, Lance Grantham in ticketing, Steve from the Gamecock Club in development, we've put a lot of time and effort into be ready to pivot as we move forward based on what might happen. We'd like to be optimistic that what we're dealing with this pandemic will put us in a better place and a safe place to entertain football fans and play in a safe way. Still to be determined, and I know you get that question quite often. I get that question, but we still have some time, and I almost feel like I'm a broken record when I tell people time is still on our side, but it is. We go into this period next month, toward the end of July. That probably becomes a little bit more of we have to be prepared to have a strategy as we move forward, not only here at the University of South Carolina, but across our conference and nationally. I think it's going to be a place you can't wait till probably mid-August or late August to make a decision on what you're going to do for football. That being said, I do have all of the different scenarios that I've actually shared with some people, and I will be glad to answer any questions that anybody has. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, Ray, I'll chime in here too. The only thing certain about this budget is that it will change. So we presented it in a format. Ray and his team have developed the modeling capability so they can look at various scenarios of football revenue and other revenue and related expenses, and can go from one scenario to the other. There's I don't know. They probably got scenarios, and as Ray says, they'll be able to pivot once we're told and can figure out exactly how many games we'll play, when we'll play them, and how many people can attend the game. Ray, is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Whittle. Thank you. And I won't bore you with details, but we're certainly planning that. We've already made some decisions about future cuts that we may make if we have to. Our coaches and their operations people have done a really good job of making sure their budgets, travel budgets, operating budgets are in line going forward. But we have put some constraints on the way they travel, the mode of travel, and what we're going to do going forward. Everything is on the table. We do have another model with operations of your program that could be 10 to 15% more of cuts. And again, I anticipate that probably that salary, that personnel number will come down even more. We'll do our very best, and Mr. Walton and I, he's been great to assist me through this as well, that we'll do our very best to try to get in a position of $8 to $10 million of cost savings for sure, based on some model that we're having to deal with, or will have to deal with, that we're not anticipating. We're not, just going to sit idly by and say, well, that's just the way it is. That we'll do everything we can to mitigate the situation we have financially.
Hey, this is Chuck Allen. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, Chuck.
Ray, on the conference distribution that is projected for the next fiscal year, which is over $47 million, which is wonderful, and I understand, we've got contingencies to deal with. But my question would be, provided there is a full slate of football games to be broadcast on the SEC channel, would you expect this fall? Would you expect that number to pretty much hold that $47 million, regardless of the number of fans in a stadium and at any given place? But if we've got a full slate on television, would you expect the $47 million distribution to hold?
Yes, sir, I would. And of course, the athletic directors and I have asked that question numerous times from our commissioner, Greg Sankey. But yes, if we produce live content, we're going to be in a very, very good place. I will note that President Caslin and the other chancellors and presidents in the SEC are working together on a regular basis, and they are involved in all of these conversations as well.
And Ray, on the debt summary, final question on the debt summary, which is about 164. I see if you include the football stadium improvements, that would take it to about 185, 186.
You are correct, Mr. Allen. I'm hoping it's a little bit less than 185, but you are correct. Once that is added on, that's where we'll be.
Okay, thank you.